Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to take a fast track and get the front bumper and fender ready for paint. So indeed, we're going to get this thing ready for paint, and if all goes well so far, you're seeing this after I've gone actually for a successful test drive. So if you see this, great. If you don't see this, well, I guess you won't see it and you don't know what happens. But assuming you see this, we are working on the front fender and bumper. Now the fender was a brand new OEM part, and even with packaging and care, it was wrapped in foam and cardboard and an outer box, but even so, there's a little scratch in here. I don't know if it was from shipping and packaging or production, but there's about an inch long scratch. Not long, not deep, just enough that you could see it. So I sanded that ridge down. We'll hit that with primer. It'll be good to go. Everything else in this panel looks really good, so we'll go ahead and get that cleaned up, ready for primer. So really not a whole lot to do here, so that's kind of a big bonus. The bulk of the work is going to come over here on the front fender because this was in a accident prior, so there are some scuffs here, and I've already gone ahead and started sanding a lot of this stuff down to get a jump on it, and I'm trying to test out my color match. I got a little overzealous and painted this kind of whole side here to see how the color matched up, and thankfully the color match was excellent. The downside is I now have to spend more time sanding it back down to the white paint and then the material, the primer under the white paint. So you can see I'm working through that right here. I'm not going to drag you through all of that because really I hit it with my DA with 120 grit around here, and then all the tighter spaces I've hit with the soft sander and 120 grit, and areas in here, for example, I'm just taking my hand and 120 grit and sanded that down. Now the goal here, what I'm done, is to make sure I've got all these areas that are shiny. You can see kind of a gloss and reflection. Knock that down so it's dull like this area here. This means I've knocked off clear, maybe a layer of paint, gotten it down to something a little roughed up and not smooth and shiny that I can actually get some primer to stick to. There really is no damage. If you compare this one to our Ford Fiesta bumper, this one is almost perfect. There are just some little nicks and scuffs along here, so I don't know what they hit or what hit them. Maybe it was just sitting in the yard for a while and it got damaged. But regardless, the $150 I spent for this plus shipping was far cheaper than a brand new one, which was over $800 aftermarket part before shipping. BMW parts were roughly $1,200 starting. The big thing I had in searching was finding the right configuration, because there are tons of bumpers out there, brand new for $200, that did not have either the headlight washers. They were for a different options package, which had 4 sensors in the bumper, where I only have 2. I have 2 more down here in this lower chin skirt. Or we did not have the front-facing camera, or we had no LED fog lights, which I believe the mounting for the fog light fixture is different. If you've got the halogen lights or the xenon, whatever package you've got, we've got the LED package, so I needed the LED headlights. Also finding one, a standard versus an M package, was a big issue. And lastly, depending on your package, you have some of them with the park assist, which have 2 more sensors over here. We don't have that package, so I spent probably the better part of 2 or 3 days searching for one of these things on and off, and I finally bit the bullet because, well, I had found a brand new one on Amazon for $300 and some. It wasn't able to be shipped to me because they didn't have a carrier. Well, They said they'd call me back and work something out, and they never did. So much as I hate to say it, shame on Amazon. You're so good at other things, but apparently transporting large things like this isn't in your wheelhouse. But thankfully I found one of these over on the eBays and worked with a seller to get XPO Logistics to drop this thing off here, and it showed up, I don't know, darn near a week ahead of schedule. So I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty much our plan is going to be finish sanding this down. I'm going to go over all of these nicks and scuffs with a little bit of the U-Pull Dolphin Glaze. This stuff right here, you know it by name, you know it by heart. That's good stuff. We'll get that glazed up, sanded down, and ready for primer. And we'll shoot that. I've got to run up to the O'Reilly's, get my paint mixed up, and then we'll be able to shoot the paint on here and clear and hopefully get this thing done in pretty short order. Now I did go ahead and get the front end, suspension, everything put back in place in the last video. I just need to get the def tank reinstalled before I can back this thing out of the garage, and just waiting to get that done, I guess. So worked on putting on this rear inner fender liner because I do want to go for a quick test drive, but I don't want to start spraying mud and dirt and crap all the way back up in here and down into the belly pan. So we'll get that on, get it backed out of here so we can actually do some paint work. So let me finish doing the sanding here. Then we'll come back, we'll drop down some of that U-Pull Dolphin Glaze, get that sanded down, get everything prepped up and ready for primer. Alrighty, we're back. I've got just a little bit of the Dolphin Glaze mixed up. We don't have a lot of areas to cover, just kind of more little spot shots, I guess, of fill or glaze to put on. So try and set you down where you're not going to tip over, and see if we can't get this on here real quick. There's a couple of spots right under where you're sitting that I'm going to grab. But all in all, it's not a whole lot of real estate to cover. So that's why I didn't mix up a lot. But we're just gonna put on just a little bit, a little more than we need, because we can always knock it down. But I don't want to make a lot of extra work for myself. You can see there are more just like nicks in here, almost like it ran into the end of a chain link fence or something, or got set up against a chain link fence. But that's kind of what I see. I don't see anything major. There's no cracks. There's no huge gouges. There's a few little scuffs down here that'll be remedied with primer. But really, this guy's in pretty good shape. You got to make sure I get this on before it gets stringy. There's a spot here I've got to grab. This is probably the worst area here, right around this fog light opening. So this will definitely take some detail work to get sanded down like it should be. But again, nothing we won't be able to handle. Couple little nicks down here. That's so far down towards the ground, nobody's really going to see it either. It'll probably just get scuffed by the rocks on our road here anyways. There's a couple behind you here that I'm just going to fill in quick. And about 2 little dings underneath where you're sitting. And we're going to call it good. So that's why you're just seeing my little mixing board and not me actually doing anything. Yep, doesn't look too bad. Again, there's not much on there. And we'll come back and sand that down. And I know I've got a little more work to do by hand. Some other areas here I can still see a little bit of gloss. But by and large, we're almost ready to prime once I get this area cleaned up. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'll come back. We'll get it sanded. And again, this is going to be short work, so it's going to be ready for primer as soon as I can get that thing out of the garage. All right, so our Dolphin Glaze has dried up, and we're going to go ahead and get that sanded down. You can see here, we hit these areas here. This was the area under the tripod. We're just going to go ahead and take our block. I've got some 120 on here. I didn't want to use 80 because it is so easy to go ahead and scratch into this plastic more than necessary. So just some light work with our 120 on here to help rebuild these contours here. Just get everything cleaned up and get the roughness of that scuffed up and scratched plastic taken care of. Then we're going to go ahead and get this thing primed up along with our fender. Now, if you notice, there's no car here. That means that it actually runs and drives under its own free will, except for this little piddle spot right here. This is where the diesel exhaust fluid, DEF, urea, whatever you want to call alphabet stuff this is. The pump for the active DEF tank has a crack in the heat bonded seal between the heating element and the casing. So I'll throw up a picture here of what the pump looks like. And basically between the black plate at the bottom where the plug is and the kind of ivory cream colored casing is, there's a heat treated joint. Maybe there's some adhesive in there too, but it looks heat treated for the seal, and that cracked in the accident. And I could see when I took it off, I could see some DEF fluid leaking out of there as I squeezed the two pieces together. I did try and JB weld it up, and that took care of about 95% of the leak. It used to be a very steady drip. It's sort of an intermittent pump. I believe it heats up the fluid to some specified temperature for making sure it's the most effective when it's introduced into the emission systems. Don't know how all that works. I just know that DEF is pretty much hated by most people, but necessary evil unless you do a delete. Don't plan on doing that. But I've got the new pump on order. That's going to take about anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks to get here for me. For you, it's probably going to be the next episode. You may not even see it just because I've got so much of this stuff queued up, ready to go ahead of time. So I'm not waiting around for a month before we can get this thing done for you. For me, yeah. But the good news is that I can pretty much put the car back together without having that new pump in there yet, because I have the little chin fairing here that kind of clips in, screws in, and this piece currently is broken here. So I can actually wait to patch this up until I get this new pump in here, because it's right under here that it fits. So I've got 3 big T27 screws that come out, and I can drop the pump out of the active DEF tank, slip in the new pump, and then put in and repair this little fairing here. Maybe I'll replace it. It's one of those things, the part's inexpensive, but the shipping is astronomically stupid. So it may just get repaired and call it good, because it's probably going to get hit with a rock on the dirt road here again anyways down the road. But let's go outside real quick and show you the car. Alrighty, well, here she is in the sunlight. You can see we've got the fender still missing. That's to be painted. Our bumper. But everything else looks pretty good. Here's that pump I was telling you about. That tank, this foam got cracked. Here's where that the plugs go in. And I think when it hit here and damaged this, and you can see it's a little loose. But under here, That's where that pump is, where the plugs are. And this piece here is also damaged, broken off actually. I did JB weld that and that was fine, but the leak is coming from, I think, over here, one of these plugs right here, I think. And just a slow trickle out. It does run intermittently, so it's not a continuous leak, but it's a leak that either way should be taken care of. Quick peek inside. I mean, it's sure cleaned up nice. Got all of our interior accoutrements coming to life. Nice Rolls Royce chime, thanks to Carly. The My Carly app and a little OBD2 dongle works great for doing a lot of not only customizations on your BMWs, your Mercedes, your whatnot, but also general diagnostics and repair, or at least code clearing. So if you do have one of the check engine lights that comes on so frequently, and apparently everybody else's German car, you can easily detect what it is. And the newer versions actually give you a good idea of how to fix it, or at least where to start looking with some online research. Anyways, we're back here. It's got cleaned up nicely. You can see we've got our new tow hook. Our batteries are under here. By the way, if you change your batteries, Carly can also recalibrate and acknowledge the batteries to your system. So it generates a baseline for met memory, voltage, all that good stuff. So it actually tells you when your battery's going dead. Step over here to the driver's side real quick. Yep. Poke our head inside, and you can tell this thing just came out so much better being cleaned up now. I mean, I am just really impressed with how well this cleaned up. And we actually do have a couple of our ammo products from Ammo NYC showing up next week. Some of the interior cleaner and protector, as well as some carpet cleaner as well. And the new sticker for back here, because my other one is on the other BMW. So, yep, she runs, she drives. Took her out for a really quick, maybe 1 mile drive last night. Everything seems to be smooth as butter. But I'll probably go for a little more of a drive today. Since it's light out. Didn't want to go too far in the dark at 10 o'clock last night, so anyways. Nice to see that is running. No check engine lights once I got everything cleared out from, taking the battery out, sure, sitting at the lot being jumped, low battery. There were, 40, 50 different random codes on there, of course, with the headlight being damaged for the adaptive headlights, the fog lights, all that stuff. Just a host of different errors. I cleared that out with Carly. All gone. The only thing now is low washer fluid. So washer fluid's almost full, so I got to figure out if something else is amiss with that. But hey, if I can come away with the washer fluid code, or washer fluid being low, and still that mystery driver restraint error, which I think is related to the module for seat memory. I can't find anything else for blown tensioners or anything else like that, so I'm doing good. I ran it with my Autel just for fun, and I didn't come back with anything new I wasn't expecting, just those 2 codes. Actually, only one comes back as a code for the driver restraint. But for now, we're going to jump back to the topic at hand so we can get some paint on this fender and the bumper. I've got to run up to the O'Reilly store and get a pint of paint. I may just get a quart in case I end up having to spray the entire hood. I'd like to not do it, but I think I'm going to have to, just because then I don't have to deal with blending it and it'll all be very uniform, which probably is a better thing to do. So we'll go ahead, just get some light passes, run down our areas here. Then we will go dig out our supplies and get some primer and sealer on here. If I can get 2 coats of primer and a coat of sealer on this and the fender hiding over there, I'll be doing pretty good. All right. Now I've got my soft sanders here versus my linear sanding blocks, the stiff ones, because I want to make sure I'm not carving into these contours. There's so many different contours around here that it's tough to hit with a flat, solid block without eating into the other contours. So that's why I'm going really light, really slow along here, just trying to get this smoothed out the best I can. Alrighty, well, I'm not gonna bore you with an hour of sanding here because you kind of get the idea. But see, I've gone over the areas here, sanded them down, and the big thing I'm trying to do is make sure that I retain this bevel here. It's not a sharp corner. It's smooth, it's gradual, it's well designed. It's not just a hard edge. So I'm gonna be going through with my furnace and making sure this edge is very close to where it should be. And that's gonna be the nice thing about throwing on a couple coats of primer too, is I'll have a better idea comparing when everything is the same color, the different contour, and make sure that I'm following it as close as possible to the factory edge. So then I can come back with my sandpaper, roll it over a little more if needed, and just work everything here nice and slow. We're not in a hurry to get anything done. And we'll come back when this is all sanded and ready to go for primer along with the fender. So got to go find myself another panel stand out of the shop. So I'll go do that, get the rest of this ready to go. I've got a giant pile of boxes. This is about half of the cardboard that all of the parts and stuff came in. So, luckily everything has come in shipped very well, packed very well, hasn't had any damage. So even this bumper came in that giant Volkswagen box. Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda, whatever, nuts are huge, box. Yeah, everything came really well packed, and this bumper I was kind of concerned would be troublesome in packaging because it was supposed to come on a pallet and it came in a giant box. So, yep, even better. Alrighty, well, we are back quite a few hours later than I had thought, but life happens. Buddies stopped by, check out a Tesla, supper with the family, go for a drive in the car here without bumpers. Sure. An average Sunday afternoon. Anyways, we've got our front bumper sanded down. All of our big nicks and dings have been addressed. Went over it all with the 120 grit with various blocks or just with my thumb. Try and roll over this edge. And this came out really well as well. Went ahead and got her all cleaned off with the spray away. We're gonna get our primer all prepped up here. This new fender is ready to go as well. So really, like I said, the only thing to do here was this little scratch that I sanded a high point off of, and we'll be able to tell when we hit it with primer if we need to do anything further. Little fleck of dust here, make him go away. And I'm gonna run a tack cloth over this real quick, and then we'll be good to go ahead and spray. Alrighty, well, I've got our primer all mixed up here, so I'm going to set you off somewhere safe and see if we can't start making a mess. Well, that doesn't seem so bad for a first pass. I'm going to let this stuff flash off here and hit it with the second coat. We'll come back. All right, we had just enough primer to get 2 good coats of primer down on the front fender here and our wonderful front bumper. So everything here looks looks really good, coated pretty well. Not sure if it shows up as well for you on camera as it does in person for me, but I'm not seeing any thin spots. I found one more little imperfection in the material itself, which I can knock down. Like I said, these are 2 kind of heavier coats, and they're going to take overnight here to dry up and cure. The bumper, that turned out pretty well. There's a little nick here, a little nick here that I didn't catch with the filler. By and large, everything else looks really good. This edge here came into its own pretty well. With the filler on there, we sanded down. The rest of everything here looks really nice. But again, I'm going to hit it all, wet sand it with 600. Actually, probably 400. Hit it with a 400 wet sand. And then I'm probably going to hit it with a coat of sealer. I am going to hit it with sealer. And that's going to get us ready for paint. I believe after I hit it with the sealer, I'm going to hit it with wet sand it with 600. And that's going to get me ready for my base coat. And we'll see how that goes down. Otherwise, the bumper itself looks really good. I mean, there's still a few imperfections here and there. Those are a lot more prominent in the light gray primer. Once we get that dark metallic gray color on there, you're not going to see them, especially since it's down at your shins. So unless you're crawling around on the ground looking for spare change, you're not going to see any of these little nicks in here because, well, you're not. And really, it's a car with 112,000 miles on it. Of course, it's in really good shape, but there's no point, in my mind, of making this thing look overly new compared to a 7-year-old vehicle. So for now, these are going to sit here tonight. They're going to cure. I'll come back, I'll sand them up and get them ready for the sealer. And I think the next time you see me, we'll be getting ready to lay down some base coat. That's kind of exciting. Alrighty, well, it's time almost to shoot color. We've got everything pretty well sanded up here. Primed, sanded, ready to go. We've got our fender. And we even went and grabbed the couple little doohickeys off the existing bumper for the windshield, or the headlight washers, and the tow hook cap. So we're going to go ahead and lay down some sealer. Nobody wants to see more gray stuff. And once that is tacked up, we're going to come back and lay down our metallic, silver, gray, whatever you want to call the color, we're going to put it down. Alrighty, we've got our sealer laid down. I decided to go ahead and hit the little extra accessories too, just so everything's got the same starting point on it. I did scuff those with 600 wet or dry, so that's good to go there. These pieces here, I think look really good. Got a good even coat on them all. This bumper is a pain with all the little holes and stuff in it. But a fender, that I think looks really good. So we are just going to let this stuff flash off here. Got, I don't know, one little piece of schmutz in there I see, but I'm not terribly worried. I can quick scuff those out when it's all said and done. Alrighty, we've got our base coat all mixed up here to go. Just Nason 2K, nothing super special. 8 parts of base, 4 parts reducer, and a half part of activator. So we'll see how much I can get done with the reducer I've got left here. Hopefully I can get everything coated with at least 2 coats. And then our final coat, since this has a light metallic in it, we do want to just kind of mist over our final coat when it's still wet, so that we're able to get some of that metallic in there to lay down on top. So let's just get to it. All right, we're gonna let this first coat flash and come back with the second coat and do a quick little looky-loo and make sure I didn't really miss any spots. So far, the fender looks like it's laying down really good after the first coat. The front bumper, yeah, I went pretty light on it because I didn't want to get any runs. But I think the second time around here, I'll be able to come back, hit it a little harder, and even so, it's looking really nice. I think it's turning out better than the Fiesta project is, a little better, so we'll see. All right, we started a second coat. Forgot about you, actually, sorry. We started on the bumper. We ran out of paint, so we just made up a new batch. So let's just finish off with our bumper and run over to the fender. Well, I forgot to turn you around, sorry for that, but let's take a look at it after two coats. I don't really see much of any garbage in this paint so far. A few little bubbles, little pop. We had that with the sealer, and those little couple, 2, 3 air bubbles popped themselves away. But so far, this is looking really good. Orange peel so far is a minimum. Go over here to the front bumper, and gosh, this color I think is going to be almost perfect. Once we get the clear on there. Well, that's rather dusty and ugly. Yeah, that's dusty and ugly. So I think once we get her done, it's going to look really good. What I was trying to say is I think once we get our last coat on here and hit it with some clear, it's going to look really nice. So we're going to let this one flash off for a few more minutes. I'm going to mix up a half batch just because I want to make sure I have enough to kind of mist over the parts for the last coat. The coverage looks pretty good. I'm not going to need a terribly heavy coat. I don't want to get any runs. So far, I don't see any runs. My orange peel is, like I said, almost non-existent in this effort. So we'll let this masker flash off and come back. We'll grab our 3 little accessories here, a couple of plastic bits, and let her dry. Alrighty, our 2 coats first are looking really good. We've got a third one yet to put on, and then we're going to lightly mist over that wet coat, just with some more fine, well, mist, I guess you'd say. And that should hopefully help that metallic sit in there and pop like it should. Both the panels here are looking better than I actually expected. The new panel, sure, that was gonna look nice, I expected that. But the fender, or I'm sorry, the bumper, if you remember, this area here had some damage, a bunch of little nicks in it. We took care of those. The hardest part I'm finding is getting in these and then down in here. So if anybody's got some good best practice tips on how to get in there, like in these little areas here, let me know, because I'm finding it real hard to lay paint in there without worrying about getting runs elsewhere. So let me know. All right, gang. Well, we got 3 coats plus a little fleck, mist coat on top, and I think this looks just freaking fantabulous so far. We're gonna let her dry and come back mañana and see what it looks like. But I think we are darn near set for our clear coat. Yeah, dang. I think this looks wonderful. Let's see. Yep. We got pretty minimal trash in here too, so I'm really happy about that. No runs, no sags. Would you believe this is the second car I've laid paint down on in 20 plus years? Yeah, I'm sure some people would, based on my technique, but you know, gotta get back in that groove. So, yep, we're gonna let stuff dry. I'm gonna clean up. I stink, the garage stinks.
Yeah, this is much better.
Alrighty, we've got our base coat down. We'll let that sit. And now we're gonna go ahead, just not delay, go ahead and get our clear coat shot. And I've got enough for 2.5 batches, I guess, with a 4-to-1. So I've got 11 ounces of the clear and the equal amount proportionally for the activator. My math is not working. So numbers work out. And hopefully I've got enough to get at least 2 coats on everything here. I do have to run to town today anyways to get this ugly mop cut. So if I'm missing, I will, really, it's about as bad as my shirt collar. So if I run short, I'll just stop by the good old O'Reilly's and grab some more. And yeah, let's just get going. We got just a little bit left, so we're going to let this last coat flash off here. Make sure we didn't miss anything big. Then we'll come back and see how it looks. Alrighty, well that's going to wrap up paint on this one. Take a quick look here. And you know, from a distance through the lens, I think it looks really great. I've got just a little bit of orange peel to cut and buff out of this thing. Far less than the last job I did for that Fiesta flip. But I think overall this looks really good. I had just a little bit of clear left in the can, in the jar, so I threw a 3rd coat across the front here where I know is going to get beat up a little more by rock chips and stuff. So that's going to give me just a little extra protection, I think, up there. Otherwise, man, these little cutouts for the fog lights, those are still a challenge to spray, so hopefully they turned out well. Fender looks really good. I mean, it looks really good in person. Again, there's a little bit of orange peel, but that's going to get taken care of with cutting and buff. Just a few little pieces of trash, like a little hair got in here from something. I don't know where that came from. And one down here may have come off my shirt. So we'll take care of those in buffing everything out. I got a couple of little parts here, the fender flare thing, our headlight washers, the tow hook cap. Overall, I think a really good job, and we'll see how it matches up to the car when we reassemble everything, and that's going to be the next video. This stuff is going to sit and cure for a while. I mean, sure, I could touch it after a day, but you know, I can't drive the car yet anyways because there's that silly EGR recall that BMW does not have a fix for yet. Well, they have a fix for it. They just haven't sent out any parts. And, you know, I'd kind of like my new car not to catch on fire when I'm driving, especially with my family in it. So we're just going to keep that in the shop for a while and keep driving the X3. Otherwise, we come back, the last video hopefully is going to be the reassembly of the front end. We do have a lot of parts from the old bumper to transfer over. Got the fog lights, of course, the windshield washers, the kidney grills, these grill inserts here, this stuff down here. So a little bit of work there, and it shouldn't be a lot of work to throw the bumper and fender on. I know there's going to be a couple little plastic retainer clips I'm going to have to track down, but that's going to be minor. I should be able to get 99.723% of everything done, and at least maybe allow us to get out on the road for a quick test drive with it. I haven't gone farther than a quarter mile down the dirt road. Lack of bumper and headlights and all the sensors hanging down in the front. Nah, we'll just wait. I know it runs, I know it drives, just haven't really gotten over 20 miles an hour yet. And, you know, there's that whole catching on fire thing. So until the next video, hope you liked it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. Check us out, all of our links below. Lots of links, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. If we're not, let us know where we should be. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.